top story, India will see an economic growth of 8 to 8.5% for the coming fiscal year. That is down from 9.2% growth estimated in the current year. That is what the annual economic survey predicted a day before the budget. The survey says that almost all indicators show that the economic impact of the second wave in the first quarter was much smaller than that experienced during the full lockdown phase in 2020-21, even though the health impact was more severe.
In a surprise, the economic survey has pegged India's growth estimates next year at 8 to 8.5, which is far lesser than the IMF's recent forecast of 9%. The government's top economists say this is because of factors including high inflationary pressure and the international crude prices. While this year the economy is expected to grow at 9.2%, it has actually only grown 1.3% above the pre-pandemic levels, because the recovery this year is on the back of the sharp contraction in the first year of the pandemic.
The economy this year is estimated to have grown by 9.2% after a contraction of 7.3% in the previous year. Overall, GDP is 1.3% above where it was pre-pandemic. This is in line with what we saw calculating from the GVA perspectives. There's going to be very likely a withdrawal of global liquidity by major central banks. Capital flows have been so strong that we have a very healthy balance of payments surplus. Even with our more conservative forecasts from the economic survey, we would still be the world's fastest growing economy.
India is expected to be the world's fastest growing economy, with both agriculture and the industry showing signs of strong growth after the lockdown. The challenge would be to keep up this pace. With Sakshi, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
And Prime Minister Modi today accused the opposition Samajwadi Party of inducing voters to seek revenge on the BJP in Uttar Pradesh, saying it was a far cry from the development and policies of the Adityanath government. The Congress in charge of UP, Priyankas Campaign, was meanwhile on a door-to-door campaign in Noida. Meanwhile, in Western UP, farmers who are a key factor held a protest betrayal day against the government for what they said was the government reneging on its promises.
पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश की ये वो धरती है.
The Prime Minister's first big rally for West UP on a day the Election Commission continued its stay on big physical rallies. Though virtual, the Prime Minister did not hold back any punches, formally declaring this a bipolar fight between the BJP and the SP.
हम यूपी में बदलाव के लिए खुद को खपा रहे हैं, जबकि वो आपसे बदला लेने की ठान कर बैठे हैं. इन लोगों ने जिन्हें टिकट दिया है, उनकी भाषा, उनका व्यवहार, उनका इतिहास, उनके करतूत, उनके कारनामे, ये सारे उनके सबूत हैं. ऐसी अनुकूल सरकार उनको चाहिए कि उनको उनके अपने खेल खेलने में सुविधा हो.
The Prime Minister's focus was simple, trying to remind and scare people of what UP may become under an Akhilesh rule, calling it the fake Samajwad.
है कौन? नकली समाजवादी है. आज यूपी कह रहा है, एक बार फिर गरीबों की सरकार.
Modi touching upon a crucial pain point in Noida and Greater Noida, the urban housing mess. He claimed Yogi's government made a difference in improving the situation, but called it a legacy of the past.
इन लोगों ने भ्रष्टाचार और रियल एस्टेट माफिया का ऐसा गठबंधन कराया कि एनसीआर के हजारों फ्लैट खरीदारों के जीवन भर की पूंजी लूट गई. इस माफिया को खत्म करने के लिए रेरा कानून लागू किया है. इससे आज अपना घर मिलने में लोगों को आसानी हुई है.
Another high-profile door-to-door campaign in West UP's Noida was that of Congress General Secretary Priyankas Campaign. She kicked off her first physical visit to the region by going to a temple.
आप 80%, 20% की बातें कर रहे हैं. आप ये क्यों नहीं कह रहे हैं कि कितने प्रतिशत बेरोजगार बैठे हुए हैं उत्तर प्रदेश में? आप यही क्यों नहीं कह रहे हैं कि शिक्षा का जो बजट में आपने जितने प्रतिशत पैसे आपने खर्चे हैं वो पहले से कम हो गए हैं। सबसे आग्रह करना चाहती हूँ कि आप इस चुनाव को अपने बारे में बनाइए।
आपकी तहसील की बात कर रहे हैं, तहसील में खड़े हो गए।
In West UP's Muzaffarnagar, farmers held protests and called it Betrayal Day, claiming that the BJP had gone back on its promises to farmers.
भारत सरकार से कुछ समझौते हुए थे। एमएसपी गारंटी कानून बनेगा, उसकी एक कमेटी बनेगी। वो कमेटी नहीं बनाई अभी उन्होंने।
The UP election campaign is at its peak right now, with PM Narendra Modi targeting multiple constituencies across western UP and Ms. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra going door to door. All political parties are ensuring that they will fight tooth and nail for each seat. With Ravish Ranjan Shukla in Muzaffarnagar and in Noida with camera person Ashok Mahale, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
And the Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, like I said, campaigned door-to-door in Noida to seek votes for party candidate Pankuri Pathak. This was her first physical campaign since the Election Commission banned rallies. And the Congress's Pankuri Pathak faces the BJP sitting MLA from Noida, Pankaj Singh, who is the son of the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh.
You should see what the PM is saying, what the CM is saying. They are constantly talking about communal issues only. What is this 80-20? What is this Danga and Tamancha? They have been trying to convert this election into a communal one. This is what they do in every election. Earlier they were in the opposition. This time around they had the chance to work for the public. They had the chance to show the country and the state what they could do. But they have failed completely. None of their schemes, be it the smart cities, bullet trains, Skill India, nothing took off. And today the people are in a worse condition than they ever were. So now they again have to take this election in a communal direction, and that is why the Congress is appealing to people that they need to vote on real issues like unemployment, like the rising prices, and on issues that are going to shape their future. So the BJP is trying to take this this election into a communal direction. We are trying to remind people that they need to vote on their own issues.
And it was a huge day ahead of the assembly elections in Punjab, with key candidates filing their nominations. These include the former Chief Minister Amrinder Singh, Prakash and Sukhpreet Badal, and of course the incumbent Chief Minister Channi, who has been fielded from 2 seats, a sign that he may be given the nod over Navjot Singh Sidhu. Meanwhile, in Uttar Pradesh, Akhilesh Yadav filed his nomination from Karhar in the Mainpuri district. And making a significant political move, the BJP fielded the Union Minister SP Singh Baghel against the Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav from Karhar, which has been a stronghold of the Samajwadi Party for about 20 years.
जो लोग कुछ सीटों को अपनी पुश्तैनी, बपौती, खानदानी, गढ़, किला कहते हैं, वो लोकतंत्र में भारत की गरीब जनता का बहुत बड़ा अपमान करते हैं। मैंने बदायूं के गढ़ को गिरते हुए देखा है, मैंने कन्नौज के गढ़ को गिरते हुए देखा, मैंने फिरोजाबाद के गढ़ को 2 बार गिरते हुए देखा है। तो ये भारत की जनता है, ये वोट की चोट अच्छे सहन नहीं कर पाए हैं।
आप चूंकि इतने कई बार सांसद रहे सर, आप समाजवादी पार्टी में भी रहे हैं, वहां से भी मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट रहे हैं, आप उनको भी जानते हैं और बीजेपी में भी काम करके देखा है। जब आज आपको पार्टी ने बताया कि बघेल साहब आपको यहाँ से लड़ना है, तो पहली चीज आज बताया, कल बताया, सर सस्पेंस तो इसी का ही है।
नहीं, जब भी बताया बहुत अच्छा लगा।
The big guns of Punjab filed nominations, the former chief ministers Amrinder Singh and Prakash Singh Badal and his son Sukhbir Badal. But all eyes were on Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi, who filed his nomination from the Bhador Assembly seat, one of the 2 seats that he'll contest.
This at a time when reports suggest that Congress is inching closer to name its CM candidate over Navjot Singh Sidhu, another contender, and that is why Channi has been fielded from 2 seats.
The Bhador seat falls outside Channi's bastion. It falls in Punjab's Malwa region, considered the stronghold of the Aam Aadmi Party. The idea is to field Channi here to take on the Aam Aadmi Party. The Chief Minister used a religious metaphor to seek public support.
मैं सदामा बन के आया, मालवे वाले कृष्ण बन के सामण गए, ते असीं बड़ी भारी जीत पूरे मालवे चों लवांगे।
But Bhador may not be a safe seat for the Congress. In the 2017 polls, the Congress came 3rd behind the Aam Aadmi Party and the Akali Dal. It's never won this seat in the last 50 years, barring 2012, which is why Channi is also fighting from Chamkaur Sahib, his traditional seat, which, like Bhador, is a reserved seat. The Aam Aadmi Party candidate from Badaur says he isn't worried.
जगह सीट ही हमारी रिजर्व है तो मैं भी एससी परिवार से आता हूँ। एक तरफ तो वो एससी है जिसका लड़का 1.5-2 करोड़ की गाड़ी चलाता है और एक तरफ वो दलित है जो 2 कमरों के मकान में रहता है। तो ये मेरे लोगों ने सोचना है कि भाई दलित कौन है। एक के पास तो सिर्फ ठप्पे का सर्टिफिकेट है कि मैं दलित हूँ और एक वाकई में है। और चरणजीत सिंह चन्नी जी अभी प्राइवेट जेट में घूमने वाला दलित मुझे तो कहीं नहीं दिखता।
We asked the public for their view.
विकास ਤਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਿਆ ਜੀ।
ਬੇਰੁਜ਼ਗਾਰੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਸੁਣਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਕੂਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਬਣ ਗਏ ਉੱਥੇ।
स्टूल कास्ट का जो पहली बारी मुख्यमंत्री बने जी।
AAP is considered dominant in this region, but with Mr. Channi being fielded by Congress from Badaur Assembly seat, the Congress party hopes to revive its fortune in Malwa region of Punjab, which sends a maximum of 69 MLAs to the state assembly. With camera person Ashwini Mehra, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
And India recorded 2.09 lakh new COVID cases on Monday. That's 10% lower than the weekend. The positivity rate rose to 15.7 from 14.5% in Delhi. COVID cases have dipped. The positivity rate has dropped to 6.20 from 6.37. In Mumbai, cases have dropped by 17% in 24 hours. The daily positivity rate has dropped to 2.1%. That's down from 30% at the peak of the third wave. Kerala, however, is seeing a positivity rate of nearly 50%, and the state government has imposed a curfew. Only shops selling essential items are allowed to remain open.
At the Thiruvananthapuram Medical College, AB, a nurse and Sanju, the ambulance driver, are helping a critical COVID patient with hospitalization. They are among the new teams taken on contract by the city corporation as COVID cases spiral. The test positivity rate now hitting a whopping 50%.
ഇപ്പം ഓട്ടം കൂടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. നേരത്തെ വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മൾ ഒരു ദിവസം 2-3 പ്രാവശ്യം എടുക്കുന്ന പേഷ്യൻ്റ് ഇപ്പം 6-7 തവണ ഇപ്പം പേഷ്യൻ്റ് എടുക്കേണ്ട അവസ്ഥയായി.
എടുത്ത കാരണം എന്താ? ഈ കൂടിയ കേസസിന്റെ കാരണമാണോ നിങ്ങൾ അറ്റാച്ച് ചെയ്തത്? എങ്ങനെയാണ്?
കൂടിയ കേസസ് ആയതുകൊണ്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ നടത്തി ഇവരെടുത്തതായിരുന്നു കോർപ്പറേഷൻ.
വരുന്ന ദിവസമുള്ള കേസസ് കൂടാൻ പോവാ. അപ്പം അതിനു വേണ്ടി നിങ്ങൾ എങ്ങനെയാ പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്?
സ്റ്റാഫിനെ കൂടുതൽ അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. വേറെ എക്സ്ട്രാ ആംബുലൻസ് നോക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെ പ്രൈവറ്റ് ആംബുലൻസ് അവർ ഹയർ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് കോർപ്പറേഷൻ ഓൾറെഡി.
Kerala has been seeing an unprecedented COVID surge with over 50,000 positive daily cases for the last 6 days. But the good news, hospitalizations remain at around 3.6% of total active cases. Over the last 1 week, there has been no increase. But strict restrictions like gyms, theatres being closed continue in 5 districts, including the state capital, some where hospitalizations have crossed the state average.
At this point of time, we have to note that only 3.6% of the total active cases in the state need hospitalization. And the IC occupancy and the ventilator occupancy, they are not at all increasing. So the situation is not at all alarming.
This would have usually been a busy, bustling street, but no crowding seen here. This as Kerala gears towards what is expected to be a third wave peak in 2 weeks from now by mid-February. With camera person SP Babu, Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
And more than 500 students from humble backgrounds have made it to government medical colleges in Tamil Nadu. A 7.5% quota for NEET qualified government students have made this possible, even though their NEET score was not as high as those urban students cracking it with private coaching. This even as the state battles to get exemptions from NEET through legislative means for what it calls a level playing field.
17-year-old Sneka, who belongs to a tribal community, will soon start her MBBS studies at Chennai Stanley Medical College, though she scored only 295 out of 720 in the NEET medical entrance examinations. Her father is a platform vendor and mother a domestic help. The 7.5% reservation introduced last year for students from government schools who qualify the NEET entrance examinations has helped many children from very humble backgrounds fulfill their dreams of becoming a doctor.
I study hard. That's why my dream comes true now. I want to do service, medical service to people, poor people like us.
Priya, the daughter of a waiter, has worked hard to crack the NEET examinations. Her parents could not afford private entrance coaching for her.
If I went to a private coaching center, I could also able to score above 500 and 600, and I could also get into medical college without 7.5 quota, I think.
In Tamil Nadu, around 20 students, including class toppers, have died by suicide since 2017. This because they were unable to get higher NEET scores as compared to those who could afford private coaching. The state offers free NEET coaching for students in government schools. This year, 534 poor students and those from rural backgrounds will start their MBBS and BDS degrees.
We have worked 24/7 for the past 1 year and we made this possible. Students achieved it for us.
Though Tamil Nadu has passed a bill to make medical admission on the basis of class 12 marks, arguing NEET favors the affluent classes who can afford private coaching, the governor is yet to forward that to the president. And now it appears the 7.5% quota is beginning to help the cause to some extent. In Chennai with Cheryl, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.